God, the man's come out with a knife. The man's come out with a knife now. Boss, look here, look.
Go for me.
Look. God, he's got a knife. Go.
Fucking idiot. You fucking idiot. Burn the Quran.
God, he's got a knife as well. Oh, you got a knife, man. Come with the
fucking idiot.
Wait, don't come to me.
Go for me.
Listen, I'm just filming, yeah?
Burn the Quran.
No, you shouldn't be. Listen.
It's my religion. You don't burn Quran.
Ah, what are you doing? Come on, man. What are you doing? You're standing out in public road with knife. Exactly, what are you doing?
Fucking bully's on the floor! Stand up for him, you fucking bully! Fucking up!
You don't burn fucking...
He just did. He's done it. Unbelievable. He went into his residence here. He went into here, took a knife, come out and started attacking him with a knife. Unbelievable. There is ways to deal with things, but you shouldn't be burning their book for a while.
I mean, he is right. You shouldn't be burning their book. But at the same time, what they're doing to the Christian buildings and the Christian church, a lot of times, we don't see no consequence. So I think people want to give them a taste. And the government ain't helping with that. Because they think Christians can take it. They can. But they're the peaceful religion.
I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content.
Which makes me wonder, what is hateful content? Burning the book or wielding a knife in a specific way?
Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief.
Maybe I'm the only one, but generally when I hear judges speaking about the law, usually it is, violence doesn't solve anything, you know? But if you're going to finish a quote that, I'm here to protect your freedom of speech, but there might be consequence with that, if that is your ending claim, which usually you mention when you're talking about specific religion, I just find it a little wild.
And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes. Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law, which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law. Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime. In Britain and across Europe, Free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
Dilo, remember to subscribe.
¿Por qué?
So I really wanted to understand this whole safe zone thing, and what I found is that the legislation prohibits activities intended to influence or impede access to abortion service within these zones. And I'm like, impede, I can understand. Influence, you're telling me that if somebody is praying for their own needs, for something they might have done, even if they agree with you, it might scare specific people, and for that reason, even if they said it out loud, you're going to fine them? I know a lot of people that have been influenced to not do something with all these Antifa protests and all this stuff. You don't fine them.
Deutsche Polizeistadt schütze die Faschisten! Deutsche Polizeistadt!
And ladies and gentlemen, they don't get any fines, but this is a protest after a supposed terror attack, and when people were like, we need safer borders, you got Antifa screaming, as if they don't influence people.
That's why I cannot just ignore what we heard before. I cannot not comment on the speech we heard by the US Vice President. We fight for your right to be against us. That is the motto, one of the mottos of the Bundeswehr, and it stands for our democracy. This democracy that was just called into question by the US Vice President, and not just the German democracy, but Europe as a whole. He spoke of the annulment of democracy, and if I understood him correctly, he compares the condition of Europe with the condition that prevails in some authoritarian regimes. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not acceptable.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know what I find unacceptable? There was a right-wing party campaigning, doing their thing, and as usual, they want to close the border. They don't want open immigration with no filters. And certain people of specific religion felt offended, and one decided to be an attacker and attack those people that were campaigning. The people that were campaigning in the end managed to hold him off, but the cops, knowing gangster stuff can happen, were so obsessed in the defense of that attacker. We need to defend him way more than all the other people around him, because if they didn't open their mouth, he would not be pissed. Okay, they pushed all the right-wingers down. The minority stood up, the attacker, and he was like, well, I can't get anybody. Well, who is the unsafest? Oh, the police that was holding the right-winger down. Kadam, in the neck. He passed away. And that is not the unacceptable thing that I want to talk about. The unacceptable thing is to hold the funeral. The whole mini city where the thing happened decided to hold the funeral, not in a Christian way, not in an atheist way, no, in the minority way. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine my son is a vegan and you convince him to go eat a hamburger and he choked and he passed away. At the funeral, you invite me to a surprise party to remember the good times you enjoyed life with my son. And you bring me to Burger King. And when I'm angry, you get angry at me saying, why don't you have empathy? I was trying to remind him of a hamburger. I'm sorry he passed away, but the hamburger ain't bad. The idea that you're so out of touch and you cover it, it's wild. It's so wild. And guess what? I'm going to be a super vegan. I might even join the party of vegan.
Wir haben die Antworten. Wir haben einen Plan. Wir haben einen Zukunftsplan für Deutschland, den wir in den ersten 100 Tagen einer Regierungsbeteiligung angehen. Die Grenzen lückenlos schließen und jeden illegal und ohne Papiere Einreisenden zurückweisen und eine ganz klare Ansage an alle Welt: Die deutschen Grenzen sind dicht, liebe Freunde. Sie sind dicht. Die Versorgung von Asylbewerbern von Geld auf Sachleistungen umstellen. Sozialleistungen für Nicht-Aufenthaltsberechtigte streichen und Rückführung im großen Stil durchführen. Und ich muss Ihnen ganz ehrlich sagen, wenn es dann Remigration heißen soll, dann heißt es eben Remigration. Das Asylrecht muss endlich eingehalten werden. Asyl ist Aufenthalt auf Zeit und endet, wenn der Fluchtgrund entfällt. Versorgung von Flüchtlingen vor Ort, damit sie erst gar nicht nach Deutschland kommen. Turbo-Einbürgerung und die Verramschung des deutschen Passes, so wie es die CDU betreibt, sofort beenden. Das ist mit uns nicht zu machen. Und nach dem Vorbild der Niederlande und von Ungarn Ausstieg aus dem EU-Asylsystem. Ganz einfach. Deutschland wird unter unserer Führung aus dem EU-Asylsystem austreten. Darauf können Sie sich verlassen.
This is the party that I would condemn 10 years ago. Now, either people doubt the decision or people are grateful for the option. And even J.D. Vance is calling it out.
I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration. Today, almost 1 in 5 people living in this country moved here from abroad. That is, of course, an all-time high. It's a similar number, by the way, in the United States, also an all-time high. The number of immigrants who entered the EU from non-EU countries doubled between 2021 and 2022 alone, and of course it's gotten much higher since. And we know this situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum. It's the result of a series of conscious decisions made by politicians all over the continent and others across the world over the span of a decade. We saw the horrors wrought by these decisions yesterday in this very city. And of course, I can't bring it up again without thinking about the terrible victims who had a beautiful winter day in Munich ruined. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and will remain with them. But why did this happen in the first place? It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe and unfortunately too many times in the United States as well. An asylum seeker, often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction? No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants.
Ladies and gentlemen, you might think burning certain book is bad, but at the same time, now we have to be worried if we're going to celebrate Christmas because we normalize offending people. A reaction might happen. That's what the judge told us. Before you tell me that happened in Sweden and not in Germany, I can also say in Germany they're burning barriers when there's a Christmas event because that might offend people and they don't want the car to plow through. Again.
Don't get me wrong, ako sa kitabang put the fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam turlo keta verdeta welcome.